I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. I was the guy everyone thought had it all: steady job, a decent place, and a future with Sarah. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for the last 6 months, and I was supposed to be marrying her in just a few days. Yeah, I know, it sounds like the start of a rom-com, but let me tell you, it was anything but that. From the beginning, Sarah was a bit of a bitch, cold, manipulative, and pretty good at lying when it suited her. She could be charming when she wanted, but I always caught little hints of her sneaky side. Still, I convinced myself she was worth it because she'd make me laugh, and she genuinely seemed happy with me. I mean, I was crazy about her. We'd planned everything: the wedding, the honeymoon, the life we'd build. But I started noticing little things that didn't add up: phone calls that she'd hide, late nights with work, and her getting unusually defensive if I tried to dig into her phone or her messages. It all started to feel like I was walking on eggshells. Still, I pushed through because I wanted to believe in us. I told myself I was overthinking, that if I was just a little more patient, everything would be fine. But then the signs started piling up and I couldn't ignore them anymore. One night I decided to do what I should have done from the start. I snooped a little. I didn't want to be that guy, but I was desperate to know the truth. So I went through her phone when she was out. That's when I found the messages, secret messages between her and her boss, Mark. They were flirty, full of inside jokes and talking about seeing each other soon. I saw plans for a hotel, a dinner date, and a lot of flirtatious talk. I was stunned. My stomach sank. My mind raced. How could Sarah, my fiancée, cheat on me with her boss, Mark? And not just cheat, she lied to my face every time I asked if she was seeing anyone else. She told me she'd never do that, that she loved me, and that her career was just work. But these messages told a different story. It looked like they'd been sneaking behind my back for months, and all of it was happening just days before our wedding. I felt sick. I kept digging through her stuff, looking for more evidence. That's when I stumbled upon a hotel receipt tucked away in her bag, an expensive hotel, the kind you use for a quick getaway, not just a weekend trip. The date was 2 days ago, right in the middle of all this mess. The receipt had her name and the hotel name, and it was clear they'd been together. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How did I miss all this? How did I not see that my own fiancée was cheating on me with her boss, and that they'd been lying to my face the whole time? That's when I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't just ignore this. I needed answers, truth, real truth. I waited until she got home that night, tried to keep my calm, though I was barely holding it together. When I finally called her out, her face twisted into this bitchy sneer, like she was annoyed I was ruining her perfect plan. She denied everything at first, said the messages were fake, that I was reading too much into it, that Mark was just a work friend she'd been helping lately. She spun all these lies, trying to act like I was crazy or insecure. And when I pressed her about the hotel, she just rolled her eyes, said it was a mistake and I was overreacting. But I wasn't stupid. I knew what I saw. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak all at once. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray me days before our wedding? I never thought she'd be this kind of person. I always believed she loved me, that she was different from all the others who cheated or lied. But she proved me wrong in the worst way possible. The trust I had built over 3 years was shattered in a moment, and I was left standing there, feeling like I didn't even recognize the woman I was supposed to marry. I wondered how I'd ever recover from this. That night, after everything I'd uncovered, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, images of her, the messages, that hotel receipt. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to what was really going on. The betrayal cut deep, and I felt this sick, hollow anger bubble up inside me. It wasn't just about the cheating. It was the way she lied, the way she played me for a fool. I kept thinking about her bitchy attitude, how she always dismissed my concerns, how she looked at me like I was a joke when I tried to talk about the future. I realized I'd been fooling myself into thinking she was different, but she was just another manipulative woman, hiding her true colors. By morning, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and pretend everything was okay. I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to be prepared. I didn't want her to spin her lies or manipulate me into feeling guilty. I decided I'd wait for her to come home from work and then lay everything out on the table. I wanted her to see I wasn't going down without a fight. When she finally got back, I was waiting in the living room, my arms crossed, trying to keep my cool. She looked at me with that smirk, like she thought she could get away with everything. I didn't hold back. I threw the evidence on the table, her messages, the hotel receipt, everything I found. Her face flashed with a mixture of shock and annoyance, but she quickly recovered her bitchy attitude. "Oh, come on," she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You're reading too much into this. That's just work stuff. You're paranoid." I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "No, Sarah, I saw the messages. I saw the hotel receipt. You've been lying to my face and I want an explanation. How long has this been going on?" She tried to deny it, to tell me I was mistaken, that I was overthinking, but I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I told her I knew everything, about her affair with Mark, about the hotel, about how she's been cheating on me just days before our wedding. Her face twisted into something ugly, her voice getting bitchy and defensive. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. "You're just jealous, insecure, and ruining everything. Mark's just a friend, okay? We're not doing anything. You're blowing this out of proportion because you're scared about the wedding." That was the moment I realized her lies were about to get even worse. I saw her trying to spin it like it was all my fault, like I was the crazy one for even questioning her. But I had enough. I felt a strange mix of rage and sadness, anger because she'd thrown everything away, and sadness because I truly believed she loved me. Now I was just left with this sick feeling that I'd been living a lie for months. From there, everything else started spiraling. She kept insisting she'd never cheated, that I was overreacting. I remember her bitchy tone, the way she looked at me like I was a piece of trash. I wanted to scream at her, to tear her apart, but I held back. I knew I had to be careful. I needed to think about what I was going to do next. But here's the thing. I knew I couldn't stay quiet much longer. Her lies, her manipulations, they only made me angrier. I'd been humiliated, betrayed, and I didn't trust her anymore. That's when I decided I'd find a way to get revenge, to make her see what happens when you mess with someone's trust. I didn't want her to walk away thinking she got away with it. No, I was going to make her regret every lie, every betrayal. This wasn't going to be the end of it. I was already planning my next move, and trust me, she wasn't going to like what was coming. After that explosive confrontation, I knew I had to step things up. I couldn't just let her stay in her little bubble of lies and denial. I felt like I was losing my mind, but at the same time, a cold resolve started forming inside me. If she thought she could cheat and get away with it, she had another thing coming. I didn't want her to walk away thinking she'd manipulated me, that she'd won. No, I was determined to make her pay in a way she'd never see coming. Over the next few days, I started digging deeper. I wasn't just going to rely on what I'd found on her phone and that hotel receipt. I needed leverage, something concrete that would give me the upper hand. I started looking into her recent bank transactions, her emails, even her social media. I wanted to know who she was really talking to, where she'd been, and what she'd been doing behind my back. It was like putting together a puzzle, and every piece just made it clearer. She'd been cheating on me with Mark for months. That bastard was not just her boss. He was also my best friend's brother. That fact made everything 10 times worse. One night, I hacked into her email account using a trick I'd learned. I didn't want to do it, but I felt like I had no choice anymore. When I got in, I saw dozens of messages between her and Mark, mostly about secret meetings, late nights, keeping it discreet, and even plans for them to meet again next weekend. It was all there, plain as day. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and absolute disgust. This wasn't just some one-night stand. This was a full-blown affair happening right under my nose while I was planning our wedding. I also tracked her recent locations via her phone's GPS. Guess where she was? At a hotel downtown, again with Mark. They had been sneaking around in hotels, bedrooms, and who knows what else. I knew I couldn't just confront her again without some solid proof, so I started planning my revenge carefully. I wanted her to know I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, the way she made me feel every time I thought I could trust her. Meanwhile, she was still acting bitchy, throwing fits, and denying everything. but that just fueled my fire. I was already picturing how I was going to make her regret crossing me. I knew I had to be smart. I couldn't just lash out and ruin everything. This needed to be calculated. The last thing I wanted was to be the guy who lost everything over a cheating wife, but I also couldn't let her get away with it. So I kept digging, gathering every piece of evidence I could find. And then I found something that changed everything. A series of secret messages exchanged between her and Mark, not just about their affair but dirty talk, plans to meet up even after I found out, and some very revealing promises about never stopping, keeping it secret and making it worth her while. I felt my blood boil. This wasn't just an affair, it was a full-blown betrayal, built on lies, deception, and a complete lack of respect for what I thought we had. I realized I had enough to destroy her if I played my cards right. I was already planning my next move, and I knew it had to be ruthless. Because she thought she could cheat, lie, and walk away, I was going to make sure she paid for every second of betrayal she'd inflicted on me. The question was, how far was I willing to go? How much of her life was I ready to mess up to make her understand what she'd lost? That's when the true game began. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that her lies weren't just small fibs. They were a cascade of betrayals that ran deep. I started to realize that I was sitting on a powder keg, and all it would take was one spark to blow everything apart. I knew I couldn't confront her again without risking her twisting everything, so I decided I needed to plan my revenge carefully. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, to understand that cheating on me, especially with someone so close, her boss and my best friend's brother, was going to have consequences. I started making arrangements. I knew I couldn't just confront her directly again. That'd be too obvious, too easy for her to spin her way out of. Instead, I decided to involve some mutual friends, people who had no idea about her double life. I found out that her best friend, Lisa, was close to her and talked to her often. I subtly fed Lisa some information, enough to make her suspicious but not enough to blow my cover. I wanted her to see who Sarah truly was, the bitchy liar who'd betrayed everyone around her. Meanwhile, I put a plan into motion that involved gathering more concrete evidence, stuff that would destroy her credibility if I ever decided to expose her. I found a way to plant a recording device in her phone case, tiny enough not to be noticed. I wanted to catch her red-handed, talking about the affair, bragging about her lies, or even revealing her plans to run away with Mark. I wasn't going to leave anything to chance. I needed proof that couldn't be erased, denied, or dismissed. One night I set everything in motion. I was nervous but determined. I sat in my car outside her apartment waiting for her to come home. When she finally arrived, I watched her walk in, cocky and bitchy as always, acting like she hadn't done anything wrong. I slipped her phone out of her purse, carefully installed the recorder, and then returned it. I knew the recording would be crucial. If she slipped up, I'd have her on tape admitting everything. If not, I'd still have enough to tear her down. Over the next few days, I kept a low profile. I stayed quiet, letting her get comfortable again, thinking I was too hurt to do anything. Meanwhile, I kept monitoring her, collecting evidence, waiting for the right moment to strike. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was calculating. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't some fool to be played. I was going to make damn sure she regretted ever crossing me. Then, it happened. One night she and Mark had another secret meeting, and I caught her on the recording, talking about how she couldn't wait to get rid of me, how she was only using me for my money, and that Mark was her real soulmate. Listening to her on that recording, I felt a mixture of disgust and heartbreak. The woman I thought I knew was just a manipulative, self-centered bitch who only cared about her own pleasures. I was ready to confront her with everything. I knew I could have just exposed her right then and there, but I needed her to really understand what she'd done. I wanted her to see the destruction she'd caused, not just to me but to everyone around her. That's when I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about making her see she couldn't get away with betrayal and lies. And so I waited. I knew she'd slip up again. I knew she'd think she was untouchable, but I was ready. I had all the evidence and I was going to use it. Not just to hurt her, but to make her understand that actions have consequences. I was done being the fool. Now, I was going to be the one in control of how this all ended. And when it did, she'd wish she'd never crossed me. The night I decided to finally confront her, I felt like every nerve in. My body was on fire. I had all the evidence I needed, the recordings, the messages, the hotel receipt, everything. I sat in my car outside her place, heart pounding, knowing that once I started, there was no going back. I didn't just want to yell or throw accusations. I wanted her to face the full gravity of what she'd done. This was her moment to own up, or so I thought. When she came home, I didn't say a word at first. I waited until she was settled, thinking about how I'd lay everything out. I pressed the record button on my phone and then, calmly but with a cold edge to my voice, I turned to her. "Sarah," I said, "I know everything. About the affair, about Mark, the hotel, the messages. I've been listening to what you've really been saying behind my back." Her bitchy face froze for a second, then quickly twisted into that familiar sneer. "Seriously, you're crazy," she spat, trying to brush it off. "You're just jealous, insecure. This is all some misunderstanding." But I had enough. I hit play on the recording, her voice talking about how she couldn't wait to be with Mark, how their secret meetings were the best thing that ever happened, and her saying she was only with me because it was convenient, all played out loud. She froze, her eyes widened with shock, then turned angry. "You're lying," she hissed. "That's not me. You're just trying to ruin everything because you're a jealous little man." "No," I said, voice steady now. "You're the one who's been lying. You've been screwing my best friend's brother, lying about it, hiding it from everyone. You've betrayed me, your friends, and yourself, and I'm not going to let you get away with it." She started crying, but it was a fake cry, more of a show to manipulate me. "You don't understand. I was stressed. It meant nothing, I swear. I was just lonely, okay? It's not what you think. I love you. I wanted to tell you, but I just couldn't. Please forgive me." I just looked at her, disgusted. "You think I'm stupid, that I'll just forgive you after all this? You cheated on me days before our wedding with your boss and my best friend's brother. And you expect me to just forget? No, Sarah, that's not how it works." Her bitchy attitude was slipping for a second as she realized I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. Her face contorted with rage, and she started yelling, trying to gaslight me, accusing me of overreacting and being crazy. I just shook my head. I'd had enough of her lies. That night, I made the decision to end it. I told her I was done, that I never wanted to see her again. I packed my things, leaving her standing there, furious and crying, trying to spin her lies. I knew I'd made the right choice, even if it hurt like hell. I'd lost my trust, my future, and maybe even my best friend's brother, but I'd gained clarity. She was nothing but a manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could get away with betrayal. The aftermath was brutal. Friends started to pick sides, rumors spread, and I felt like I was walking through a nightmare. But deep down, I knew I had to do this to protect myself. I realized that sometimes you have to fight for your dignity, even if it means losing everything. And in that moment, I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone hurt me like that again. I'd rebuild and I'd learn from this betrayal, because nobody, no matter how bitchy or manipulative, was going to get away with destroying my life. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was slowly waking up from a nightmare I couldn't quite believe I was living through. The house was eerily quiet without her bitchy snark, and though I still felt the sting of betrayal, there was also a strange sense of relief. I'd finally taken control of my life again. I learned that even the most manipulative, self-absorbed women can't get away with hurting someone who refuses to stay silent. The pain was real, but so was my clarity. I deserved better, someone who wouldn't lie, cheat, or betray me just to satisfy her own selfish needs. I cut ties with her completely. No more messages, no more calls, no more looking back. After everything I uncovered, I knew I couldn't trust her even if she begged for forgiveness. And honestly, I didn't want to. That kind of betrayal changes a person. It makes you realize who your real friends are, who's truly worth your trust. I still have scars from it, but I also have a new sense of strength I never knew I had. Looking back, I see how much I let her manipulate me. I see the signs I ignored, the excuses I made, convincing myself she was worth the trouble. But I also see that I was naive, trusting someone who didn't deserve it. The lesson's clear. Never ignore the red flags, no matter how much you love someone. If they lie, cheat, and manipulate, it's not your fault. Reflection of who they are, not who you are. Now I focus on rebuilding myself, my confidence, my sense of worth. I've learned to listen to my gut, to never let someone treat me like I'm disposable. It's been a tough ride, no doubt, but I'm stronger for it. I still think about her sometimes, what could have been, what I lost. But I remind myself that I didn't lose anything I didn't deserve to lose. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, trust yourself. Your feelings matter. Don't ignore the signs of betrayal just because you want things to work out. The real victory is knowing when to walk away and not looking back, because in the end, the only person you owe honesty and loyalty to is yourself. And if someone can't give you that, then they don't deserve your time or your love. This was a painful chapter, but I'm moving forward, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever comes next.